welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving headfirst into George Orwell's 1984.
1984. A classic. And we're going right to the source.
Yep, using excerpts from the book itself, no spark notes or anything.
Sounds like a plan.
So, right off the bat, Orwell throws us into this world with the line, "It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. Clocks striking 13, what's that all about?
Yeah, what is that about? It's like right away you know something's not right. Like time itself is messed up.
Exactly. It's like a subtle hint that the rules of reality are different in this world, a world controlled by the party.
The party, always watching, always listening.
Right. And then we meet Winston, our main guy, scribbling down with Big Brother in his secret diary. I mean, it's just writing, but it felt so rebellious.
It is. In Oceania, where the party wants everyone to be the same, to think the same, that diary is like Winston's little rebellion, his way of holding on to his own thoughts, you know?
Yeah, it's like a symbol of his individuality, which is dangerous in this world.
Big time. The party doesn't like individuals. They want total conformity.
And the control is everywhere, isn't it? The telescreen's watching you, the thought police listening to your thoughts. It's all so creepy.
Oh, it's totally creepy. And then you have these ministries with names that are the opposite of what they actually do. The Ministry of Love is all about torture. The Ministry of Truth is about rewriting history.
It's like, what? How can you even call it that?
That's classic doublethink, right? It's the ability to believe two opposite things at the same time. The party makes you do it, makes you accept it as truth.
Like when Oceania's enemies keep changing. One minute it's Eurasia, the next it's Eastasia. But the party acts like they've always been at war with whoever the enemy is at that moment.
It's like, are you kidding me? It's gaslighting an entire society.
And poor Winston, he works in the Ministry of Truth, literally rewriting history to fit whatever the party wants.
Talk about a mind-bending job.
Can you imagine? Like erasing the past and making up a new one? It would mess with your head, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. It would make you question your own memories, your own reality.
There's this line, the past not only changed, but changed continuously. Winston's just tormented by how the party manipulates history.
It makes you think about how much we trust the information we get today, right? Who's controlling the narrative? What's true and what's not?
It's kind of scary when you think about it.
Yeah, Orwell was way ahead of his time on that one.
Speaking of control, let's talk about the proles, the working class. The party says proles and animals are free, but it feels more like they're just ignored, right?
Totally. They're kept busy with cheap entertainment, lots of booze, lottery tickets. It's like they're given just enough to keep them from asking too many questions.
Like a distraction, basically.
Exactly. Keep them distracted, keep them consuming, and they won't cause any trouble for the party.
But Winston sees something different in the proles. He thinks they have the potential to rebel, to overthrow the party.
Winston's a bit of an idealist, isn't he? He sees this raw, uncorrupted humanity in the proles. Like they're the only ones who are truly free because the party doesn't even bother controlling them.
Right, he thinks they're this sleeping giant just waiting to wake up and shake things up.
But is that realistic? Remember his conversation with that old man in the pub?
Oh, yeah. The guy barely remembered what life was like before the party, before the revolution. He was more worried about his beer.
Yeah, it was kind of sad. It shows how effective the party's propaganda is. They've wiped out the past, replaced it with their own version of reality.
And then there's Julia, this young woman who's like a breath of fresh air. She's not all about grand political ideas. She just wants to live her life, experience things.
Julia's a force of nature, isn't she? Her rebellion is more personal. She wants to be free, to love, to enjoy herself, to be an individual.
And there are secret meetings in that room above Mr. Charrington's shop with real coffee and no telescreens. It's like they created their own little world.
A world without the party, a world where they can be themselves.
It's those little moments of connection, those stolen pleasures that give them hope, you know?
Absolutely. It shows that even in this oppressive society, there's still a longing for freedom, for love, for something real.
And speaking of Mr. Charrington, he seems so harmless at first. Just a kindly old shopkeeper.
Yeah, that's what's so scary about Oceania. You never know who to trust. Appearances can be deceiving.
Like there's this constant sense of paranoia, like Big Brother's always watching, always listening.
Exactly. Orwell creates this atmosphere of fear and suspicion that just permeates everything.
And then there's O'Brien, this mysterious party member who Winston thinks might be on his side.
Ah, Brian. He's such a complex character. Is he a true believer in the party? Is he playing a role? It's hard to tell.
Their meeting in O'Brien's apartment is like stepping into a forbidden zone. Turning off the telescreen, talking about the Brotherhood, it's all so risky.
But it's also intoxicating, right? Winston's drawn to the danger, to the possibility of rebellion.
It's like he finally found someone who understands him, someone who shares his hatred of the party.
But O'Brien's motives are never clear. Is he genuine? Is he manipulating Winston? It's a question that keeps you guessing.
And then, bam, the trap is sprung.
The arrest is so sudden, so brutal, it's like all their hopes, all their dreams just shattered in an instant.
Yeah, the smashing of the paperweight, Mr. Charrington's betrayal, it's all so devastating.
It's a stark reminder of the party's power. They were always in control, always one step ahead.
And with Winston and Julia captured, we're left wondering what's going to happen to them. What horrors await them in the Ministry of Love.
The Ministry of Love, a place where love is twisted into something cruel and terrifying. We'll have to delve into that next time on the Deep Dive.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Last time we left off with Winston and Julia being dragged off to the Ministry of Love. Not exactly a romantic getaway, is it?
Not at all. It's more like a nightmare come true. The Ministry of Love, despite its name, is all about control, about breaking people.
Yeah, it's where they use torture and manipulation to crush any dissent, any spark of individuality.
Right, and it's where Winston's worst fears are realized when he discovers that O'Brien, the man he trusted, is actually a high-ranking party member.
Talk about betrayal. He thought O'Brien was on his side, a fellow rebel.
O'Brien's such a chilling character, so intellectual, so cold. He represents the darker side of power.
There's that line where O'Brien tells Winston, power is in inflicting pain and humiliation. I mean, that sends shivers down my spine.
It's a very bleak view of power, but it reveals the party's ideology. They believe in control above all else.
And they're willing to use any means necessary to achieve that control.
Exactly. Physical torture, sleep deprivation, psychological manipulation, it's all part of their toolkit.
Like that scene where Winston's forced to believe that 2 + 2 = 5.
Oh man, that scene, it's so powerful, so disturbing. It shows how the party can warp reality itself, make you doubt your own senses.
If they can make you believe that, they can make you believe anything.
Right. It's like they're trying to erase Winston's identity, his sense of self, and rebuild him in their image.
But there's that moment where Winston remembers his mother and sister. A brief flash of love and innocence.
Yeah, it's a tiny glimmer of humanity in the midst of all this darkness.
Like a reminder that Winston was once a different person, capable of love and connection.
Exactly. But those memories are dangerous to the party because they represent something they can't control.
And so they send Winston to Room 101, the ultimate nightmare.
Room 101 is where they confront you with your deepest fear, the thing that breaks you completely.
And for Winston, it's rats. Those little scurrying creatures.
He knew exactly how to target his weakness. They understood the power of fear.
Facing his worst nightmare, Winston betrays Julia, begging them to torture her instead of him.
That moment is just gut-wrenching. It shows how far the party will go, how deep they'll dig into your psyche to break you.
It's like they've destroyed everything that made Winston who he was, his love for Julia, his loyalty to his own beliefs.
They've achieved their goal, complete and utter submission. But there's something still unsettling about Winston, even in his defeat. It's like he's playing a role, outwardly conforming, while harboring a secret hatred.
Like a simmering rebellion beneath the surface.
Exactly, and that's what makes the ending of the novel so thought-provoking. Is Winston truly broken, or is he just biding his time?
We'll have to explore that further in the final part of our deep dive. Welcome back to the deep dive. So we left off with Winston, broken and seemingly defeated, released from the Ministry of Love.
Yeah, he's free, but not really free. Yeah.
Exactly. He's out on the streets of London, drinking gin at the Chestnut Tree Cafe, even playing chess. It's like he's trying to fit back into this society he once rebelled against.
He's become a product of the party, accepting their lies, their twisted version of reality.
And then he runs into Julia. You'd think there would be some emotion, anger, sadness, something. But there's nothing.
Nope, just emptiness. It's like their love, their connection has been completely erased by the party.
It's chilling, isn't it? They both become these hollow shells of who they once were.
It shows the true extent of the party's power. They don't just want to control your actions. They want to control your thoughts, your feelings, your very being.
And then there's that final scene in the Chestnut Tree Cafe. Winston looks up at the portrait of Big Brother and feels this sense of victory over himself.
Oh, man, that ending. It's heartbreaking, isn't it? He's completely embraced the party's ideology, even though he knows it's a lie.
It's like he's won the battle but lost the war, you know? He's finally at peace, but it's the peace of surrender, of complete conformity.
It's a bleak ending, no doubt, but it leaves us with a lot to think about. Is there any hope in a world like Oceania where the party controls everything?
Winston seemed to think there was hope in the proles. Do you think he was right?
It's hard to say. The proles represent this raw, untamed human spirit. They're not completely under the party's thumb, at least not in the same way as party members.
Remember that scene with the woman singing while she's hanging laundry?
Yeah, yeah, she's just living her life, oblivious to the party's ideology. There's a kind of beauty in that, a kind of resilience.
So maybe there's hope in the everyday moments, in the simple acts of living and loving.
Maybe. Or maybe it's just a way to cope, to survive in a world that's lost its humanity.
1984 is such a powerful book, so relevant even today. It's a warning about the dangers of totalitarianism, but it's also a reminder of the importance of fighting for our freedom, our individuality.
Exactly. We have to be vigilant, question the information we're given, and never take our freedom for granted.
And that's what makes this book so timeless. It forces us to look at ourselves, at the world around us, and ask some tough questions.
It's a call to action, a reminder that we have a choice to conform or to resist.
To be sheep or to be wolves?
Yeah, exactly. And the choice is ours.
Well, that's 1984, folks. A bleak but brilliant masterpiece.
A book that will stay with you long after you finish reading it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.